Greetings from Bulgaria, I'm Vulkk. Hopefully you've seen some of my other Shadow of War videos. If not, and this is your first encounter, check out my YouTube channel and website vulkk.com for more content, specifically guides and tutorials. This is the first build video that I'm actually releasing because I'm not a huge fan of builds, since this game is so complex and so universal that you actually can't really play with the same build for more than, I don't know, one mission or 20 minutes or something. But anyway, everybody has favorite skills, favorite combinations, abilities, and probably gear, armor sets and weapons, and so do I. And I've decided to share some of them with you. This build will help you for most of the generic situations. Of course, if you face some very tough legendary captain, Warchief, or an Overlord, you might have to change something depending to their weaknesses. Thanks to the Nemesis system, everything is unique every single time you encounter a new enemy here. Let's start with how about the inventory first. There is a huge number of armor sets. Of course, you have to pick something legendary. Well, you don't have to. There are some unique combinations out of the non-legendary gear, such as the epic tier, for example. But here is my choice for the purposes of this video. I do use two pieces from the Nazgul set or the ring raid set. How to get it? Link is in the video description. And I'm also using 4 pieces of the Vengeance set. Again, how to get it? Link in the description. Very quick overview. The first set, the ring raid set, you receive after completing Act 3 of the story in Middle-earth Shadow of War. And the Vengeance set is a reward for you for completing online Vendetta missions. Quite easy to obtain. Quite difficult to level up and upgrade to level 60, which is the level cap if you don't know. Now, let me show you again, one by one, each one of the weapons that I have. The first one is Urfael. It's a legendary sword, and that's part of the Nazgul set. My dagger is from the Vengeance set. The bow that I'm using is, again, from the Vengeance set. The armor piece is from the ring raid set, or the Nazgul, easier to pronounce. Vengeance for the cloak, and yet again I'm using the Vengeance ring. You may do different kinds of combinations depending on what legendary sets you have available. The game has a very useful and helpful menu to show you your progress with obtaining various legendary sets, and also each one of them will show you how what level of the item you own and what else you need to do to upgrade. Now, I had a lot of trouble upgrading the ring to level 60. I'm not really sure if it was because of a bug or for whatever other reason, but the last upgrade from 40 to 60 caused me a lot of online Vendetta missions. Again, not really sure why. It's supposed to work from the first time, at least the way it is described. Now let's move on to the character, and I do have one very extensive video, full overview of the whole skill tree with thoughts and highlights of which skills are the most important. I also have another shorter video describing the most important early game skills and my suggestions of what you should pick up. So here in this section of the video, I'm going to just highlight some of the abilities, and I'll tell you why I'm using them most of the time, why they're my favorite. Obviously, I think it's logical to start with Execution, one of the most important abilities and upgrades in the whole game. For Execution, my favorite is Fatal Might. Successful sword strike gain more might, much more might. However, every time you get damaged or miss an attack, the might will be reset completely to 0, which is really tricky and scary to do if you're playing on the Nemesis difficulty, because your opponents will adapt much faster to you and you'll be forced to lose might. That's why my second favorite here is Grim Resolve, which allows me to gain might each time I'm damaged in combat. Again, the third option here is Secret Might, and I'm not a big fan of playing as a stealth, so that's why I'm not using it most of the time. Another quick and important upgrade, for me at least, is Fury, which allows Ground to Execution to unleash a flurry of blows by rapidly tapping the main attack button before finishing an enemy. This allows you to fill up the might bar much quicker and much easier, and that's why it's one of my most important and favorite abilities. The other option is really useful again, but it's more or less situational, and it doesn't really gain you anything except preventing you from taking damage. But in other case, actually, if you take damage and use Grim Resolve, it's actually also a nice combo that fills your might. The Third important from combat tree upgrade that I would like to highlight is Ceaseless Might. Skills that require might no longer fully deplete might. This is an absolute time saver and sometimes even life saver. Combining that with the Vengeance set, 2 set piece bonus, sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's useless. It's up to you to decide what you want to do. And the other option is to chain executions for additional enemies if they're close to each other, of course, which is extremely useful for some of the side missions and challenges spread throughout Mordor when you decide to complete them. Now, this is kind of a pointless retaliation because I avoid using it unless, of course, I want to grind something. Moving down, and I would like to highlight Death Threat. It's related to the online vendettas and everything else, because you are allowed to upgrade to Vow of Violence, which a bonus objective, which is another bonus objective to death threats. You are allowed to death threat, as far as I know, only captains. I was not able to death threat to issue a death threat to a Warchief, and everybody knows because it has been officially confirmed. You cannot death threat an Overlord because at the time you are allowed to issue death threats, they're actually locked in the keep and you don't have access to them. The range tree is pretty much up to you. Here, for the Mighty Shot, you probably want, at least for the later game, to unlock all of the 3 upgrades and switch between them depending on who and what you are fighting, because different kinds of captains and war chiefs will be vulnerable to different kinds of attacks. Moving down to the raid 3, I highly suggest you unlock, if not all, at least most of the upgrades, because at different parts of the game you will need most of them. And yet again, highlighting the Elven Light, because at different parts of the game, just like with Mighty Shot, you find yourself craving one of the 3 different bonuses that are attached to these. Quick overview, just in case you can't actually spot, or maybe you're new to the game and you're not really sure what I'm talking about. Elven Light sets enemies on fire, is the first version of the upgrade. The second one sets enemies, freezes enemies actually, and the third one poisons enemies. So depending on their weaknesses, this is a really important upgrade. For the Ice Storm, my most important and favorite upgrade is called Frostbite, which allows Ice Storm finishers to cause critical strike. The other 2 options, which I also switch to from time to time, is Shower of Ice, which allows me to freeze enemy in a frontal cone ahead of me, depending on how high my hit streak is. And the third upgrade, which is also quite fun, is Shattering Blow, allowing Ice Storm finishers to shatter your target, causing everybody around you to just spread around and to run away. Lord of Wrath allows you to consume allows your consume ability to increase wrath. This is really important depending again on what you're doing and how you spread your abilities and your resources, but it is by far my favorite out of the 3. As far as Raise Death goes, I would always prefer to have Death Troll up, because Olog Hire, at least in the missions, are more popular and useful, I should say, than Karagors and Ghouls. And of course, if you want to summon dead ghouls, you probably want to have the Matron's Scent upgrade here in the range tree to detonate, because otherwise ghouls are quite hard to find, unless of course you're in an area where they spawn naturally. One of the most important skills to get as soon as possible in the game, again mentioned in my previous video, link is in the description as well, is the Karagor Raider, and my favorite upgrade is called Pounce, which allows the devouring enemies while in stealth to restore more of my Karagor's health. Now this is not exactly needed because you don't spend too much time playing in stealth when riding a Karagor, but the other upgrade is called Bestial Rage, and you can see its description here on the screen. From the mounted combat tree, I would like to highlight the upgrade to Shadow Mount called Packmaster. This is really useful when you're taking a keep, or when you're inside a fortress or inside a camp and there are lots of Karagors around you. Specifically useful when you're attacking a keep and your opponent has Karagor's perk activated. Moving down to the story, and I would like to highlight my favorite upgrade to the Drain ability, which is called Bright Lord's Wrath. Draining or dominating an enemy fully recovers health and drains wrath. Now again, let me quickly go back to the Vengeance set bonuses and see that stealth damage deals stealth damage dealt increases by 33% when the health is below 35%. And if you use the sword, which I actually do quite often, the Sword of Vengeance, melee damage dealt increases by 33% again if the sword is fully upgraded to level 60 when your health is below 35. And it's extremely easy to get your health below 35 without allowing orcs and captains to hit you, because you're also allowed to use the 2 set piece bonus, performing attacks requiring might by consuming 40% of your max health. So just doing 2 quick executions or anything else that consumes might, and you will find yourself below 35%, and then as many pieces of the vengeance set as you're using, that much higher your damage will be. Of course, each one of the different weapons is increasing specific type of damage. For example, they don't stack. For example, if you want to deal more damage with the bow, you have to use the bow, but these 33% damage are only accurate and available for the ranged damage attack. So you don't get 33 plus 33 plus 33 for the 3 weapons that you're using. No, that would be insane. And with that said, well, of course I could show you the gems or gems that I have currently here, but as you can see, they are not yet fully upgraded because someone's been lazy to farm those. But that's pretty much what I'm going for, because the red means weapons and weapons damage and just damage overall, and that's what I'm preferring. And I'm using the green gem for the rune bonus of 30% less damage to my followers, specifically useful when I'm attacking fortresses and assaulting forts and stuff like that. Let's go back and say a couple more words about Shadow Strider from the story tree and its upgrade, Eagle's Eyrie, I believe it's pronounced. This is an absolute favorite of mine, and it's very well combined with Talon Strike, because I believe I forgot to mention the upgrades that I'm using for Bird of Prey. Bird of Prey's Talon Strike combines very nicely with Eagle's Eyrie, which allows you to stun and CC basically a large group of mobs, specifically useful when you're inside the fort once again. And that's where the most fun fights are happening, when you're assaulting or defeating a fortress of yours. For the co-followers, I usually prefer to go with Bodyguard, because most of the time in most of the areas I've spent some time, not a lot, leveling up and preparing the bodyguards that I've chosen for myself, and they actually serve a very good purpose for me. And as you can see, I haven't finished all the achievements for the Shelob series yet, so I haven't unlocked the spiders. And this is another upgrade to have, useful to have as well, Iron Guard. As far as Dominate the Captain goes, I do prefer the Lifeblood ability, but it's not exactly crucial. And this is actually my build, guys. I hope that you would find it useful. It's not a specific build aiming at some specific kind of gameplay, like all-out fire, or all-out poison, or all-out ranged damage, or something like that. It's an all-around build that I find very useful and very entertaining. It's useful for both the normal difficulty and for the Nemesis one. Of course, if you're playing on easy, everything is easy, and you don't need to care what kind of gear you're wearing and what level the gear you have is. Now I'm going to leave you with a couple of short clips of gameplay featuring this set and this exact build, and let me know what you think of it. Why have you chosen something different? Because I'm certain that the more experienced players will have something to say. I don't like that skill, I've picked the other one because it's better. Tell me that in the comments, why is it better? And I would love to check out your own builds and compare and test them. See you in the next video, guys. Bye bye.
Look at you, all by yourself.
And look at us, not by ourselves. Not by ourselves by a long shot. Ha ha! Will fall.
Won't work on me anymore! For the ghoul! Roll, boy! Keep smashing! On the ground, maggot! Hold it!
Didn't see that coming, eh?
Thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the video.